History doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. Most people look at the prediction markets, the Polymarket, the NBA sheets, the percentages, and they see a game. They think it's just another way to pass time. But if you read books like When Money Dies, you know the truth.
This classic study by Adam Ferguson. To some observers, Germany's economy seemed in great shape because its heavy industry, geared to exporting, boomed immediately after the war, in part because of the mark's weakness. As a result, and because of their tight organization, wage workers suffered little initially, since employment was high and wages kept pace with inflation due to the threat of work stoppages. By the end, though, wage workers suffered too. For different reasons, the rural populace also did not suffer much at all. Yes, the war loans might have become worthless, but they had food and shelter, both rich and poor. The rural populace appears very little in this book, except as the object of distrust from city dwellers for refusing to sell food for worthless paper. I'm sure there are detailed studies of the country dwellers, which perhaps give a more nuanced picture. It was the traditionally silent middle and upper middle classes, the backbone of the society, who suffered. The people did what they could to secure their positions, even as those positions eroded daily. The stock market rose as money was dumped in anything that seemed it might have tangible value. The purchase of foreign currency allowed hedging, since the mark depreciated continuously against all foreign currencies. Soon enough, average Germans thronged all the shops, buying anything for sale that might hold its value. And as things fell apart, city dwellers had to sell anything they had in exchange for food, profiting those who had food to sell. Often these were speculators sharp enough to profit by, for example, borrowing huge sums from the government, immediately converting it into foreign currency, then, after a few weeks or months, reconverting it into a vastly greater quantity of marks, repaying the government loan, and using the profits to buy and resell goods. The inevitable impact of this was social corrosion, as every man looked to himself. The great industrialists, best able to both move large amounts of capital and engage in cross-border transactions, lined their pockets. The now forgotten Hugo Stinnes, once the greatest magnate of Germany, gets a lot of play in these pages. He's forgotten mostly because he died, young and unexpectedly, in 1924, so he played no role in later German history. Those with dollars or other foreign currency to spend lived like kings, eating and drinking at fine restaurants while thin and hungry men, not long before the social elite, passed bitterly by. Middle-class apartments emptied as books, pianos, and furniture were exchanged for food. Petty crime soared and political stabilities plunged. Ferguson does not discuss the political turmoil in detail, other than to note that the left-wing and right-wing parties both benefited from the chaos and dissatisfaction.
Prediction isn't just a hobby. In a world where the currencies are rotting, prediction is a survival mechanism. Let's go back to 1923, Weimar, Germany. The mark was dying so fast that workers were paid twice a day just so they could buy bread before the price doubled at noon. Savings accounts wiped, pensions gone. The honest man, the one who worked hard and saved paper, was the first one into the dirt. But you know who survived? The speculators. The people who realized that holding paper was a death sentence. They moved their wealth into hard assets, gold and real estate. But also, they moved into information.
When people can't afford the big things in life, they start making small bets on happiness instead. And this pattern of behavior is actually an economic indicator that predicts when everything is about to collapse. In fact, there's even a theory for all of this. In the aftermath of 2001, the chairman of Estee Lauder, the beauty empire that owns brands like Le Labo and Clinique, noticed something strange. Lipstick sales were surging despite a slumping economy. And he noticed it again after the 2008 financial crash. Lipstick sales spiked. And during the inflation of 2022, the same thing happened. He called it the lipstick index. That when times get tough, people swap big purchases for small luxuries. And it wasn't just lipstick, but fancy chocolates, $10 lattes, and artisanal candles. All these sales surged when a house, car, or vacation became unaffordable. It kind of makes sense when you think about it. These little treats that make you feel better become a guilt-free bet on happiness. And if we're gonna get all technical, it serves as this economic escapism to cope with the fact that the bigger goals in life has become impossible. And that's exactly what we're seeing now, but on steroids, with blind boxes, social casino. In fact, companies are spending billions to further turn consumption into the world's most hidden casino. And they've already successfully expanded their targets. 1 in 2 American men aged 18 to 49 already have a gambling account, but now it's increasingly reaching women with creepy toys, blind boxes, and retail therapy. So how exactly did we get from childhood toys to now everything we buy feeling like a gamble? Well, after weeks of research, I found that this goes way beyond this secret form of the gambling epidemic, to a point where the US is increasingly becoming an economy that runs on it. Because when life gets unaffordable, addiction usually becomes the only escape. But if something isn't done about this soon, it's slowly becoming an addiction without a cure.
When the cost of living index is a vertical line, the only thing that has value is your ability to predict what happens next.
But more importantly, in pursuit of unpredictable rewards. And this is key here because what unpredictability taps into is a powerful conditioning that psychologists call the intermittent reinforcement. In short, it triggers a bunch of dopamine into your brain. And as you can imagine, it's the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive.
Yes! Nice.
Let's fast forward to today, 2026. Look at the architecture of our world. We're seeing the same speculation fever. Why is the prediction market exploding? Why are billions of dollars flowing into yes/no outcomes on the NBA and global events?
Right now, Google searches for how to day trade are at all-time highs. And just how unemployment numbers serve as recession predictors, so does unconventional spikes in amateur day trading. Historically, we also saw this in 2021 during the AMC short squeeze frenzy, and when paychecks started becoming uncertain, people started chasing fast money and upside to make up that difference in income. And when regular people lose hope in steady jobs and find overconfident hope in easy trading apps, recession typically followed within the next 6 to 12 months. And with online gambling becoming more legal and available, this desperation is showing up in the fact that 1 in 2 American men today have a gambling account. So when traditional paths to prosperity like homeownership, stable careers, building wealth feels more like the lottery than a certainty, both men and women don't just stop seeking rewards. They just downsize their bets in different ways when the big wins in life seem impossible. And these companies...
It's because people have lost faith in the traditional systems. When the official data arrives too slowly and the safe investments feel like a trap, the people move to the truth signal. On the Poly, you aren't just betting on a basketball game. You are trading on the most valuable commodity in human history: certainty in an uncertain world. The dumb jock sees a parlay in a dream. The architect, he sees a market of belief. In Weimar, they traded silk shirts for sacks of flour because the flour had real utility. Today, we trade percentages on the Lakers or the Thunder because accurate information is the only hard asset left that the system can't print into oblivion.
So when you look at Polymarket right now, you can bet. And what I like about it is it says how it works. The market price is the probability. So right now, Trump, if you want to buy or bet on Trump winning yes, it's 59.8 cents. So let's just round up to 60. So that means that there's a 60% chance. So if you put $100, and I'm going to do this now here just to show you. If you put $100 on Trump to win and he wins, you buy shares that go to $1. So your total would be $167.22 on 100. So you'd get back 67.22%. And the reason they say this is that these are, now I didn't see a study cited here, but they said, listen, this is real time, people betting with real information, and it takes a lot of courage and or beliefs to put your money where your mouth is. And I respect that because you can buy and sell these at any time. So if you buy this for 60 cents, let's say, and it goes to 75 next week, you can sell it.
Prediction markets, like the Poly, are the new forecasting infrastructure. They are faster than the news, more honest than the polls, and more disciplined than the banks.
How did we get here, and how is this legal? The CFTC, which stands for the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, is a federal agency which oversees markets for futures, options, swaps, and other financial derivatives. Remember the movie The Big Short?
And CDO-B has parts of CDO-A, but then they both get put inside CDO-C.
Yeah, that one's called CDO squared. CDO of a CDO.
Well, the events that movie was based on resulted in the CFTC being given greater regulatory control. It's up to them to determine what is and isn't allowed to be traded. An event contract, in other words, a bet that is based on the outcome of an event, is permitted. The only catch is that it can't involve or relate to terrorism, assassination, war, gaming, or an activity that is unlawful under any state or federal law. But Jack, you just said gaming, and isn't sports betting a form of gaming? Well, that's the debate. A few companies have argued that event contracts based on the outcome of a sporting event aren't gambling. They contend there are economic ripple effects to the outcome, such as increased spending around a stadium when the home team wins, or a city looking to offset the cost of a parade by backing their team to win a championship. In the last couple years, the CFTC has indicated they will take no action against licensed CFTC prediction markets who offer trading on sporting event contracts. And that's how we got here. Now, whether or not this is...
But why? Because on the Poly, if you're wrong, it costs you. And nothing makes a human more honest than the threat of losing their capital. Here, we do the golden scrolls because we are learning the game of risk. We aren't just picking winners. We are training our brains to see the architecture of probability. We are becoming the survivors of the next when money dies moment. So listen, if you're ready to stop being a victim of the noise and start being an architect of the truth, unroll the scroll. The link's in the bio. Stay wise, protect your capital, and remember, the speculators are the ones who stay standing when the paper fails. Let's get to work.